Alrighty, folks, thank you for coming this evening. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. For our first agenda item, I think everybody was emailed the minutes from the October 10th meeting. Are there any additions, changes, questions, or anything about that at all?
Approve, accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, anything? Okay, good to go. I'd like to introduce our guest, Mr. Ice here.
Hello again.
And then
We've got Andy Conyers from our city manager's office. He was at our first meeting. I don't know if you remember him or not. Andy's sitting in tonight because at the next meeting I will be gone at a conference, so he will be running from the staff side. He'll be your staff liaison that night. He's up to speed for the most part, but he wanted to come sit in tonight, just make sure he's fully up to speed. He's got lots of experience in running task force, so.
Hope you have your running shoes on, because this is a wild and crazy.
He's a runner, so you're in good shape. You're in good shape.
I'll make sure I have it.
thank you for coming. So agenda item number 4, we're going to continue the discussion and action on potential location for future comprehensive Veterans Memorial. So last month, we did kind of rate out the sites 1, 2, and 3. And so I think we all know which one came out number 1. The reason why we did not hold the vote last month is because we were a little bit over a quorum, so we wanted more people to be here to be able to, if there's any other further discussion about that and anything, and then go ahead and be able to cast the vote as this committee sees fit on what we voted on. So we can have the floor open for a little bit if anybody has any comment. Of course, the number 1 location came out to be the what was it?
Beckham-Redkin.
The Beckham-Redkin Park was number 1. Second was the Edmond Tennis Center, and then the Route 66 was number 3. So, does anybody have any statements they'd like to make on the ordering or anything like that? Okay, well then, do I hear a motion to approve for the Beckham-Redkin
I'll
Park?
make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So we've now got, so now we wanted to do that, so now that we're going to be moving on, one of the things that we discussed was now we need to come up with the concepts, kind of how we are going, what do we want this to be, the pieces of the puzzle, so we can start to create the program. And I know Jason did a great model for this, and so we're going to bring this up so we can start to take this program and then you start to mold this into a 3D concept so we can present that to the city. Again, we know that we're not going to be able to get everything packed into this as much as we want to, but we're going to try to start to put those into an order so we can vote on those like we have been doing on what we see are the most important things to have inside of this memorial. So Casey, if you would please.
Yeah, can I add a couple of things real quick before you get too far into that? I'm going to pull up, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the park here. Did everyone that was not here get an opportunity to watch the meeting back? One of the things last week that we had was Craig Dishman, our Parks and Recreation Director. He came and spoke, provided a little bit more context related to the park itself. Sorry, I got to get over there. There we are. So a couple of things, and I'm just going to mention these for a little bit of context for your discussion, things that you can keep in mind. Here's the park here. One of the things that Craig shared at the last meeting that was new information for this group was the large pavilion that's currently there is not in great shape and is unfortunately getting worse. It was built as a home, retrofitted into a pavilion, so I think Craig is definitely open to that potentially coming down. We would still need a pavilion as part of what is done, but that gives you a lot more very visible space right at the front of the park to work with. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Jason, your concept that you sent over, I was trying to understand, did it fill this loop area? Is that
Right.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was pushed close to the front.
Kind of up here?
Behind the pavilion.
Okay,
So
okay.
Some of that loop would have to be reworked a little bit.
Okay, so something to keep in mind I don't know, I don't have this answer, so I can't tell you. I don't know how much desire there is to take away a lot of the natural setting, which you have inside the loop. So just keep that in mind as you're discussing that. Nobody told me, hey, we can't do that. But I just want to make sure you don't go too far down a road that council's gonna be like, we don't want to take out all that natural setting. I think one of the real unique things with this park is figuring out how to integrate into that park that's fairly natural.
Casey, what part of that is the dog park?
The dog park is this area over here where there's no
Okay,
grass because
okay.
the dogs love to run. So yes, this area is the dog park. Let me zoom in a little bit more just so you can get a better lay of the land. And I don't know, most of you may have already gone out to the park and walked it and looked at it. You get a much better feel for it if you go out there for sure. Some of this area over here is actually an area you wouldn't be able to do anything with because it's kind of a drainage way that comes over and into the creek. So I wouldn't think that you could do much over here, but this area here, and then, one of the things that was discussed early on when we started really looking at this park is all along this trail loop, all the way around, you can tell where it's cleared. You can kind of see the delineation where it's more natural and then where it's mowed down. So not saying you have to do that, but just something for you to keep in mind that is an opportunity all along there. And then over here, you've got the big pond, and you've got where it opens up to the pond. And then once you get to the place where it opens up, you can actually walk back behind some of these natural areas as well. So
Go down to the south of the
Yeah.
pond.
you bet. Let me zoom out so I can get there a little
Because
bit.
it's connected, so.
This is all treed. All this area here, this is all pretty heavily wooded all the way through here.
And then that loop is the arboretum.
This is
right?
the arboretum, so our urban forestry department has an arboretum back there that they take care of that has a lot of different species of different trees and those sorts of things. And there's to get into the arboretum, there's actually this, let me kind of get over here. There's a bridge that runs underneath these trees right here, which is actually a real pretty setting.
And where's the park, the Whispering Creek Park?
Whispering Heights Park. So this neighborhood over here is Whispering Heights. So this is actually an older neighborhood park that was already there before we had Bickham Rudkin, and they kind of have merged into one because there's not really like any play amenities or those sorts of things at Bickham Rudkin currently, but over here at Whispering Heights, you actually have some play things here and then a big playground here. You've got tennis courts. So it kind of all really is contiguous as one park at this point.
Casey, I have to do it this way because I can't north, south, east.
No, you're
west.
fine,
It's
you're
gonna
fine.
be goofy for me. Just leave it the way it is.
I won't touch it.
Because that's goofy for me. Okay, I have just questions on it.
Sure.
Okay, can you?
You want me to zoom in?
Well, right here, number one, is that part of it? Because that looks like that's like barren. And then up there with the memorial thing that you did, would that fit in there? In this area?
And that's what I was saying earlier. This is the area that Jason was working in.
Yeah.
But when you actually go out there, it's not just a flat nothing there. It's actually grown up.
But it looks like it's
a
less,
natural area.
I mean, you'd be taking out minimal amount of greenery, it's probably a lot
Right.
of grass and stuff like that. But so what I'm saying, you'd be taking out minimal spots there or the other one. You wouldn't really be disturbing, you'd have the wooded around it.
Right. I'm not saying you can't
Yeah.
do that. I'm just bringing that up just so you have some context. So you guys
There's not a
can,
lot of big trees in that. big
there's not. It's more,
But
it's
one
more.
thing you do have in that area are all those blackberry bushes. That's what you see.
Yes, there's a
And
bunch of-
families come out there,
Oh.
grandma, grandpa, the kids, little kids, babies. They're all out there picking blackberries.
It's kind of more bushy, grassy sort
Oh,
of
well, if
area.
there's blackberries there, no, I'll take it.
So all that being said, the challenge with this, but I think one of the real opportunities is integrating into the setting as well.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that before you guys got too far into that. You could even, if you want to figure out a way to integrate the dog park as part of it, I don't know.
The
But
only
it-
way, I was thinking about that, would be have a memorial to service dogs. You know, the dog sniffers in Desert Storm and the German Shepherds in World War II, and just have a statue there of
Buddy
a
of mine is one of the trainers.
military
You certainly could. I think,
Book
don't we have
more
one
volumes,
piece
you
of
wrote
public art in the dog park? I think so.
A bone or something.
Yeah, there's something, so yeah, you could, if you wanted to even incorporate that as part of what you're doing in the area, you bet, so.
Well, and I understand the police department is trying to raise funds right now for a K-9 piece of art, so we might be able to partner with them and
Yeah.
help them out and get it put down there.
Certainly could. So I just want to share that before you got into that, and then let you guys kind of run with your discussion. But are there any other questions about the park before you kind of dive into talking about?
No, but I think it's wonderful that they are amenable to taking down the pavilion, because I think that is an absolute pristine place to be able to start whatever it is we start there.
It's very visible from 33rd Street.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And that pavilion actually is somewhat popular because they were able to convert this house, but they're really starting to struggle with the condition of it because they kind of retrofitted it into being a pavilion. It doesn't have a permanent restroom facility.
Yeah.
One of the things that you guys would be able to do as part of what you're doing is add that
Yeah.
to the park as an amenity as well.
But wouldn't we want to increase the size of the parking lot?
That's up to you guys.
That was one of the discussions that we had, and yes, they said, you want.
Yeah, let me zoom in.
Up on that parking lot area. With the creek that kind of runs more through here, I guess it is, they were saying that they're looking to clean all this up.
Yeah.
So some of this can, come down or replant it or however, but I mean, yes, we can probably get the parking lot.
Some, because some of this is your detention, your storm area right here, so I'm not sure. I mean, but I think
that would
you
be a
could.
Civil engineering question if we get further down the road, we say.
And they
can we put a-
mentioned they were gonna
put a
move
retaining
the
wall?
entrance to the dog park.
Yeah,
possibly
move
on
the,
that
yeah,
trail.
move it somewhere.
Yeah, so right here is the entrance to the dog park, and there's always been a concern that if a dog gets out of somebody's hand and starts running, it's immediately on the street. There's this natural trail that's come through here, so they're planning to reconfigure the entrance in here. I think one of the things that Craig talked about at the last meeting was potentially cutting in here, and you could add more parking
Yeah.
all through there without necessarily having to reconfigure a whole lot. So, I mean, you could add quite a few spaces if you just continued that all the way around.
And that northwestern section could be made a small parking lot that would just be basically dog park if they wanted to, right off of 33rd.
Yes, and one of the things too that we've talked about is all of this gets used a ton for the dog park. So quite honestly, you can drive by and this dog park will be packed at 6 o'clock at night, and there's still spaces over here because everyone's parking over here.
But if you move the entrance around, you're gonna.
I still think a lot of people will park over here
Yeah.
just due to the ease of getting in and out. It's not always easy to get in and out, especially if you want to make a left turn. If you want to go back to the west, it makes more sense to park here and pull out and have a light.
Well, I would say, so some of the stuff that we're doing right now is we're talking about some programming stuff. So we've talked about, a newer pavilion, parking lot, and we're trying not to disrupt the current conditions as much as possible. So, I mean, we're starting to create those items. Do you want to go ahead and?
Yes,
bring
pull up what, yes.
And then Jason, do you want to come up and go
Yeah.
through all your stuff?
Or you can do it from your seat.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it from here, I guess.
You tell me
Yeah, I
what you
think-
want open first.
Well, probably just the sketch, the hand sketch.
The hand sketch, okay.
That's the last one.
I've got to apologize because I have not been out there, and so I just picked a spot that looked fairly open, because I know one of the things we're trying to do is prevent removing a lot of trees. So this which is something I did. The whole thing really was just a one-day exercise. I didn't spend much more on that, even the renderings, and I didn't want to take it much further than this because I know we're just getting into the design, and I feel like I've kind of jumped the gun a little bit. But that's just me. I have a hard time stopping. So, but I realized that this sketch would be hard for a lot of people to read, so I took it a little bit further. And I guess I'm assuming that everybody's seen.
It's gorgeous.
Have you guys seen it? I mean, I don't. Do you really want me to go through it again?
Yeah, it's
Can we
gorgeous,
just-
because I don't think he's seen it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't.
There's really if you guys have seen it, I don't know that we need to wait.
They
a whole
didn't get
bunch of
it.
time.
I changed email addresses. I no
Matthew
longer have
changed
Marcus
emails
Payne, so
and-
he didn't, I didn't get that drop off.
All right, so which
The-
one
I
would
guess
you
the
prefer?
legend would be the next.
The legend that has all the description.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's really just, I think, 6 points on there that kind of talks about that. So I can't remember what it says, and I can't read it from here.
Okay, you want me to read through? I can
Yeah,
read through
If you
it.
can read it. then-
Okay, so this now we're looking, this 33rd Street's gonna be right up here, just to orient yourselves. So number one is entry plaza. The memorial's narrow 4-foot wide entry signifies how service members' decision to enter alone into the military builds to a vast family over time. Simple, unadorned nature of the entry portal is also a respectful gesture to the unselfish sacrifice service members make to proudly serve our nation. So that's number one. Number two, it says aerial view. I don't know. Oh, that's just what we're looking at is the aerial view. Gotcha. The memorial's 5 points represent the 5 different branches of our military. The stars and stripes are evident in the white concrete walls and the red ground cover surrounding the memorial. At night, the 50 points of light represent the stars of the American flag. Where are the 50 points of light, Jason? Is that what these are here?
They show up in the,
In the night
In a
picture.
different,
Nighttime.
in a
Gotcha.
different picture.
Okay. I didn't know if you can make that here. Number 3, this larger area here, amphitheater. This sunken area of the memorial helps provide privacy and noise control for the people paying respect for our veterans. It also doubles as an outdoor amphitheater with overflow seating along the back stairs and above the surrounding lawns. Along each side of the concrete walls, metal plaques are hung with veterans' names and permanent bench seating. The causeway spanning over the sunken area allows for a point of command or a lectern and a speaker for special events. That's right up here. Number 4, the main flagpole. The large central flagpole acts as a needle and sundial. On November 11th, the top of the pole's shadow follows a timeline running along the east-west axis of the causeway. Important military events populate the timeline in chronological order. And that's right down here. And then number 5, the flag plaza. The 5 smaller flagpoles at the back of the plaza provide a backdrop and will proudly display all 5 branches of the military.
How do handicap access this? Where's that access point?
well, one of the reasons that it's been extended is because the front plaza is level and then it ramps down
Okay.
at a 1 to 12 or less. So it gets you below the causeway.
Okay.
You know, these are just thoughts and ideas. I don't mean
Well,
to,
Well, no, I think this is awesome. I mean,
This,
this is,
yeah.
I mean, this gets us into, I mean,
there's questions I've got, you know, obviously we don't know what the budget is, and I don't know, you know, what this would cost the city. The one thing that I really like about this, and whatever we decide to do, I think if we can find ways to make the memorial more than just what it is. I mean, this can be used for other events, you know, like speaking engagements or things like that. It's gonna get more people out to the site, it's gonna give more exposure to the memorial, as opposed to, you know, if we just go ahead and we put a flag plaza, you know, people will show up and then they never come back, so.
What's the north-south length of the structure?
I think it was around 300 feet.
Okay, and the east-west?
East-west, I don't, it's a little less than that, I think, so.
Yeah.
The scale of it is something, you know, that we could obviously discuss. I mean, like I said, it was a quick model and it was just
Yeah,
something
no.
I put out there for discussion, but, yeah, so, I mean, there you go.
I can't quite grasp that lens-shaped structure right in the middle. Is that a flat piece of land?
This here?
Yeah.
That goes over
That's
the
your-
top.
yeah, so this is, you'd walk under this, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a, kind of a,
It's a causeway.
yeah.
He's got some other
There's other drawings,
Yeah.
there's other,
drawings that show that.
The art there is actually the sun
Yes.
path on November 11th.
So when it hits through here as it moves through the day going from
Right. And
east to west, you'll have that ball will be right there at the top.
There's a tool that we use called SketchUp,
Yeah.
which is a great design tool. You can actually set the time and date of the year, and you can do like a sun analysis. So that is actually the pattern on November 11th for the tip of that flag.
It's free, it's
Now,
online.
wouldn't necessarily follow that on leap year, would it?
Maybe we make that a little bit wider. But as far as like
We'll
the
get some
events,
more
you know,
OTC kids out there.
Yeah, I think you need to see some of the other ones,
Yeah.
to get a better idea.
A couple of things that I thought about that I just would want to throw out to consider, is based on the location that you have. I think, if I remember right, that hill, that actually comes up a little bit. So if you're going to go sunken, you're going to have to figure out maybe what that does to drainage in the area,
that's-
obviously.
Yeah.
That's easy.
because it's below grade, that would be.
This is below, you're taking something that maybe is already a little bit of a hump and now going below grade. I know you guys could figure that out. The other thing that it looks like a very attractive place to ride a skateboard, so.
That was my thing, is probably replace the handrails with a chain rail, so you can't ride the chain down.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you could have that with anything, but just based on the design, that was one thing that did pop into my mind.
There are some other things that cross my mind, is, I mean, we probably need some guardrails around the upper portion of it. So, you
Yeah.
know, there's all kinds of
Yeah,
things that we would have to take into
Yeah.
consideration, so.
Let me see. So this,
Once you get code involved, then it's still.
Well, that looks like glass panels that you have across the causeway, is it?
You could,
Like,
Over the star, but he's talking about like on the edge of the plantings, I'd say.
Yeah,
you-
To keep some kid from walking through.
yeah,
yeah, you'd have to do some stuff over through there, but
Now,
I
the
mean, you could.
glass guardrails, they do make a impact resistant,
Resistant,
that, you know, are kind of vandal proof.
yeah, I mean, I love it, I think,
Yeah.
that looks great.
I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of pull these up one by one, and if you guys see something that you wanna.
And one of the things I forgot to have Casey send out, has anybody gone to the Dell City Women's Veteran Memorial?
Yes.
And how it's kind of bermed up around it, so I mean, it kind of comes into it, so, you know, much like that, I mean, I was thinking, you know, when we were saying, hey, we want to, how do we not disturb, obviously, what's over there, but kind of, you know, in a way, kind of help deaden sound, well, instead of building stuff up around it, let's just go ahead and go down into what's over
Maybe
there.
a cheaper way to.
Yeah.
So there's an aerial from the side.
What I love is that it looks like it lends itself to having Veterans Day ceremonies
Yeah.
out there,
Right.
which is, I
Certainly
think,
would.
really important. I'm doing the one over at Norman this year. I'm
Mhm.
speaking at it.
Okay.
And it does not lend itself to that. They have to bring in all kinds of
Right.
extra stuff, bleachers and,
The one on campus, or are you talking about the one
no,
out?
the Norman City.
Oh, okay.
Where is this in relationship to the current pavilion?
It's behind it. So this,
So you could put the pavilion there, a new pavilion there real easily.
I don't think
this
we
this
should.
is in the loop area.
Oh, yeah.
Loop area, and if this just has to move a little bit, I mean, we can,
Casey,
you've got all this
there's
area, you can go
actually-
through some trees and
I'm
kind of
wondering
get
if
good.
those show.
That shows it
Yeah,
with
the film run.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
you
thinking
did
it was a little
overlay.
close to the
I think
houses
it's
on
site
your overview.
2, maybe site 1, 2.
Day 2.
There's another one, actually.
Yeah, you can see it.
You can see
Okay,
kind
yeah, I
of,
see it up there.
so here's your pavilion and the park kind of, there's that would be the existing pathway. So you're probably, I mean, if that path, I mean, if it crosses through there, I mean, it could be,
Yeah, scroll down a little bit.
Make it gravel or something.
Site 2 right there. Yeah. So 33rd's on the right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Expanded parking, and then the pavilion would be just, I guess,
Like a little farther east, because there's some empty land to the east of where the pavilion is now. My thought was, because it's kind of in a neighborhood and it's not on a major road, that I'm wondering if the pavilion could be farther back into the park. And I think Craig at the last meeting mentioned something about getting a pavilion over closer to the pond, you know, with fishing and some things like that. And I was just wondering if we wanted the memorial closer to the parking lot and more visible from 33rd, or do we want it behind it?
and even I was thinking, I mean, the pavilion doesn't even need to be that big for this one, it's more of a gateway pavilion.
Yeah.
Here, and then if we say we want a larger pavilion where you could rent that out, it's like the general was saying, you know, hold larger events, could that even be pushed back through, you know, back into here somewhere to where it kind of connects or something with
Yeah.
another little you know, area next to the water or something, or even for future use.
Yeah, it would be really nice if there was a way we could link to that waterfront area that Casey was talking about, but I mean, how big do you want to get?
Right.
to do that?
Well, then, I mean, you know, again, maybe it's, when we set this here, you know, God forbid we have another breakout in 10 years of another war, now we got to keep extending this thing, and before too long, it keeps becoming this massive memorial war park type thing. But I think the thing is looking at that in the future, because we all know that that's going to stay a park, and that body of water is going to stay there, because obviously you have to have all that detention for everywhere in the area to run off through there, otherwise you're going to flood all those neighborhoods out. So, you know, putting this one is, you know, and saying, okay, it sets up a good thing to be master planned later for some other use.
Yeah.
And then maybe through future studies, like you said, maybe we get in there and all of a sudden the soil's garbage, and we do have to move the thing back to be able to get the water flow somewhere else or bring in stuff, so.
How frequently is that pavilion used? And my next question is, do you really still need it if it's dilapidated?
It's used. All of our pavilions are used pretty regularly. Birthday parties on weekends, those sorts of things. This one probably doesn't get as much use as others because, again, the main use for them is a birthday party or a cookout and that sort of thing, because the playgrounds are so far away. That's the only reason why it doesn't get used as much as it does now. Craig had mentioned that they were even talking about potentially putting a small playground there, but they're not married to that. That's something that doesn't have to
If
happen.
they wanted to do the playground in a bigger pavilion, that'd be better down there, like, you know, on the other end of the thing. And like you said, just, I think somebody said, just a very small thing there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they just want to have like a couple bathrooms and, you know, kind of a gateway into the memorial itself, not a huge pavilion.
Because that way, I mean, I'm thinking, when I was thinking of the small gateway and that, I mean, you could, obviously, you know, raising money, donations and stuff, so different levels, so, you know, there's going to be, as you enter the gateway, there could be some smaller plaques there, could be
Yeah.
purchased and stuff to help for fundraising and everything, and then your bigger sponsors are going to be, I mean, if we want to do that, or if we want to leave that off, I've seen other memorials where that's where it is, the sponsorship type stuff has nothing to do with the memorial, because they're like, we don't want to put anything on there, we want the memorial just to be what it
Yeah.
is. But those types of things, you know, how those things come forward.
But like, yeah, like you said, your little gateway thing could recognize that, but it's not actually part of the memorial.
Yeah, it's just kind of a little gate,
Yeah.
you know,
I think
focuses.
The big thing would be the restroom facilities.
Mhm.
We were planning to use this as more, you know, for potential speaking engagements. You're gonna need some public toilets.
That are
That
closer.
way you wouldn't have to bring in potties
Yeah, yeah.
set up, you
Yeah.
could use that. So the restroom facility is probably the biggest thing in the pavilion.
Yeah.
Well, with your
So I
design,
have a-
that's
I have a
what, but that would
question
be under
here.
the wings. Your,
On the side.
yeah,
Yeah.
underneath,
No.
off to the side, on each side of your,
That might get a little expensive.
I have a question here on the name. I know we decided, you know, changing the name of the park was not a good idea because, you know, those were both important people in the city.
That was just, I think that's just something you put on
That's just a
there.
blur.
It's a
Okay, I was like, we're
Placeholder,
not
yeah. No, no.
keeping that on.
No,
the
that's, I mean, these are.
No, I
memorial
think
shape,
that,
right?
that was just tonight, that was just part of the concept that Jason put
Okay,
in.
I was gonna say, did we pick that?
And I think
No, we just put
I think the point that Jason made earlier is this is what he put together and put out there.
Yeah.
Oh,
this
yeah,
is-
no
This
worries.
isn't what you all have to say tonight, hey,
Oh,
yes,
no.
this is it.
No, absolutely.
But I think that what we're talking about, I mean, again, as we discussed, just looking through this, finally getting some stuff into 3 dimensions so we can
Yeah.
talk about it. Is we're starting to see the programming list of some of the stuff that we really think is important start to come out on this. And obviously, we've got to have these restrooms. We have to have, you know, do we want one or do we want 2 pavilions? Do we want a gateway in a pavilion? Do we want some of this other stuff? Do we want it to have these other connections and everything? And I mean, when you're talking about budgetary numbers in a way, I'm almost like, okay, let's do the big stake and then let the city whittle it down to
Yeah.
the scraps that will be left over. And-
I would say it's a good idea.
And so that way we come out with a, you know, because,
If we're creating a list, a program list, you know, like we do typically whenever we start a project, you know, restrooms and things like that, I would say that one of the things that I felt was important, we talked about, is that the memorial has some flexibility, I think, used for other functions.
right,
Would be, you know, one of those things that we would add to that list.
yeah.
So, I mean, we can start a list and, you know, kind of like we did with the site, you know, start plugging in and then we can rate those.
Yeah, I think that's important and
Yeah.
everything, and I think that, you know, obviously, you've probably done more speaking engagements at memorials, a lot of them, so your input on those types of things. I mean, I've been to some where, we've had generals and admirals come in and speak at them, but I wasn't really paying attention to from the other end of it where you're actually speaking to an audience and stuff. So, I mean, those types of experiences would be really helpful in coming forward and say, hey, these are the things that you have to have in order to do that. If it was a commissioning ceremony for UCO, ROTC students, getting up there and doing that type of stuff there, or, retirement, if somebody was able to do a retirement ceremony or anything like that and stuff there, how would they go about this?
I think it could be multi-purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, and that will be what brings the focus of the city
Mhm.
to that particular park and that
Right.
particular area.
And getting more
It's not
money
gonna
for it.
just be veterans who, because
Right.
we're gonna all wanna go see it and participate, but when you have a place that can be multifunctional,
Right.
and then you start bringing school kids in and then
Mhm.
saying, so what are veterans and why are they there? And
Right.
it becomes a real teaching tool.
Mhm.
Really. I think it would, by using, like you said, multi-purpose, that's also a thing for the state of Lincoln. I go, whoa, we can put more money into this. It's not just this small area
Exactly.
where, oh, there's a couple statues. It's like, we can really utilize this,
Yes, I agree.
Could you put the night pictures up there?
I think I have one of them up just a second.
The one that I
And
sent
Jason, I
Casey,
can take my, pardon, go ahead, ma'am.
no, I was gonna say, the one that I sent him when we first started doing this was one that I'd seen over in Bella Vista, Arkansas.
Mhm.
But theirs had no other purpose other than people to come through and remember the veterans.
And then go, yeah.
It had a lot of names on the walls, but it did have the element that you talked about, which was they had all of their sponsors at the very front gate
Yeah.
when you walked in. Then once you went in, you didn't see anything about
Right.
sponsors
Mhm.
anymore.
Yeah.
You saw the names of the people
Right, yeah.
who had sacrificed. And I think that's something that we really want to, they had millions of dollars put into
Right. Oh,
theirs.
yeah.
And to be truthful, I think we could.
Oh, yeah.
think-
No,
I think
I
it will,
think
it will,
there's-
it's one of those things that everybody can agree on. We all love our veterans, but I think it needs to be a way to be able to teach
Mhm.
the next generation
Oh, yeah.
about what it is rather than just, a flagpole.
That
Yeah.
was one of the things that I feel like, we can have an educational feature in the memorial itself, which is the timeline.
Right.
Is, if we have, and that's something that we can talk about. I didn't think that, running along the actual time of day, as opposed to maybe just chronological order of important military events that have occurred over the course of the history of the United States.
Could you have
Or
something
maybe-
like that on, like how you go places and you either have the earphones or whatever, or it plays?
Yeah,
And
there-
it goes through all that in the,
There are firms out there that I know of that do, you could, you download an app.
yeah.
And
The
it's
VR.
GPS keyed. And, you can take your phone and go like this, and it'll actually start to place like a little movie, and you like this, so you walk through, and there could be certain, like you're standing here, and if you have your phone and, you're just sitting there like that, then all of a sudden it keys in and it'll play like a movie of that event or a story timeline of that or something like that and stuff. And so there's those types of things that we can get into that, and when you work with the consulting group and everything and say, okay, how do we take this and kind of really bring this up to the next
Yeah.
level and do those types of things. I know of, I saw on like CBS Sunday Morning News, there was a group that went out to an arboretum in Wisconsin for blind people
Yeah.
and for birds, and they were able to put on these headphones and it would pick up, they had a little thing and it would pick up where the bird was, but somehow the box they had knew the type of bird and would tell them what they were listening to and stuff. So, there are a bunch of really great consulting companies out there. Then, even Tactile, the Braille, and some other stuff
Yeah.
like that. Because of course we want to make this an all-inclusive and not to have everybody.
That would be a
do it.
really good teaching thing, like for the kids, because sometimes you tell them, but if they can see it, and especially with technology now, it's like, oh, there's a picture here too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the VR that you were talking, the virtual reality, you're limitless really with what
Yeah.
you can do programming in there. You only have to build what you have to build, but then there are lots of people out there. We have people that contact us wanting to do different things as a city, like, hey, we do this. I mean, you can literally have, you'll go to, like, I'm just gonna make something up, this isn't real, or maybe it is. But like, you could go to a Teddy Roosevelt Memorial or Museum, and you pull it up, and they've got like a Teddy Roosevelt impersonator that's telling you the history and all that, and you're just watching it right there. But as you're pointing it, you're seeing that person in the setting of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Not just watching a video. It's kind of like if you've heard of Pokemon Go.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which
19 crime.
you're out there and you're looking around and it's in your own setting, and it's virtually there. And so, yeah, you really have a lot of opportunities with those sorts of things with whatever you do.
And there could be too, you know, when we're discussing some of this type of stuff, at the pavilions, they could have these kiosks type things where it has some kind of a screen, and, you know, similar to, I think they have at the bombing memorial now with the new renovations of it, you know, obviously, you know, at the World Trade Center bombing memorial, where you can go through and you can see names and you can click on stuff and maybe bring up their stories, and, you know, and that could be, you know, and that's where, you know, when we talk about, we want to take this to the next step, an educational tool, working with these type of consultants and say, hey, how do we design this for smartphone use? Obviously, that's going to be way more interactive before too long. So we can kind of try to anticipate some of these things coming down the road so the memorial stays relevant 30, 40, 50 years from now.
It's a kind of a paradigm shift in memorials, as opposed to the static, you have a more interactive. And I think with marketing with it, that's one way to do it, you know, because everything's so technological today.
So I think that, you know, I would say right now, you know, let's see what time we've got, that we've gone through, you know, and Jason, thank you very much for taking your time and doing it. That was
20 minutes.
Yes.
That was really good, and I think that helps us get some of those really cool ideas. And I really loved your idea about, you know, you're the first person through, you know, 4 feet wide, that is, and, you know, that's,
You know,
to start off, for a lot of us, it was that
I'm not.
going through that door saying,
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but where do I sign? And you're
Well,
like, oh, crap.
it's- You know, I've not served in the military, but I have
Right.
2 brothers that are Marines. And
Right.
Father in Vietnam. And talking to both my brothers, you know, when they decided to join and go through boot camp, I mean, it was their decision.
Yeah,
They went in alone. When they came back, I mean, they had a huge family.
yeah.
And you captured it spot
Yeah,
on.
it's-
Well, with the writings that you did, and I'm just saying, if we would incorporate this the way it is, you know, with some, you know, modifications or whatever, those need to be, like, in those areas. Those sayings that you did, because they're beautiful, you know, the 4-foot in it, that needs to be, like, engraved or something, so that people can read that, because that is.
Explains the design, explains
Explains the design,
the concept, right?
But also, it gives, I don't know, they don't understand unless they can, if they've never been in the military. It's very difficult.
Well, you know, one of the things that I noticed from my brothers were, you know, they were very proud of their service, but they never bragged about it.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think whatever we do, the entry needs to be unassuming and not gaudy. You know,
Right.
Just very basic, because I think that's kind of what our military servicemen are about, you know, so that was kind of the rationale
But I
behind
love
that.
this, I love the writing you did, that was gorgeous.
Yes.
Should be in there.
So I would say, so for the next 20 minutes, I would say, does anybody want to be the scribe and write it down? And then that way, those types of concepts can start getting over to Casey. Then we'll start adding him some more beyond tonight, you know, through the week and stuff, as everybody has time to process everything. Send him that in, and then we can start to create our scoring list again. And on this, you know, I'd say we go through, you know, maybe it takes a couple rounds to go through those types of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, and everything. So I'd say if we want to go ahead and start putting out some ideas so Casey can start getting those in there.
Okay.
And then that way, so next month, we'll discuss further again, the concepts and these ideas and everything. And then the one after that, which would put us,
You guys are gonna have to talk about meetings,
yeah,
because your schedule is.
getting tight. And I think that we discussed also in the next meeting, we are thinking more, we would rather present something after January to the city council. So we're not pressed for time. We're not trying to hold all these meetings during the holiday season and I mean, this isn't something that really needs to be rushed. We want to make sure that we're presenting kind of the best ideas that we can get out there and stuff. And we're not just saying, oh, because you guys want us to do this. No, I'm sure. I mean, again, this is as much our memorial as it is everybody else's, and that's what we want to make sure that we're taking the time to make sure of that.
Here's a starting list that I heard.
Okay.
Okay.
Pavilion, remodel, and remodel.
I think they were just talking about getting rid of the whole thing. I think just knock
Doing something with it.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a desire from the Parks Department, from what Craig said, is to have something out
It
there.
needs to be.
Still, yeah.
I totally agree.
So yeah, that goes away, but you need to have something.
I mean, we've
Pavilion
already got-
removal and rebuilt.
Yeah.
There's already sanitary sewer there, there's
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
electrical, I mean, there's already utilities in place,
Yeah.
so you're ahead.
Yeah,
Like,
you could
there's-
put a single hole in each, an 80, or a family
We have to
restroom in
add-
each one.
I don't know if there's sewer there yet. That's why there's not a restroom, I think.
Oh, there's not a restaurant.
There's not
Oh.
currently.
They use
There's
porta johns.
porta potties, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I
I need to go out to the site, I guess.
I mean, a septic system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's an old family.
Yeah, we're right next to a
family
neighborhood, so
recently.
running it
Yeah,
into the
tying in.
sewer.
They'll be able to. I'm not saying they can't. I just don't, it's not there currently.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So restrooms is another
Yeah.
thing that we,
Yeah.
flexibility of the space, being able to use it for multiple functions. Parking.
Whoa, whoa,
of course,
whoa.
we don't know.
I can
Oh,
write
are you-
fast.
I'm sorry.
He's already got it
Okay.
written, don't you? Don't you have?
It's on
it?
video.
I-
Go
well, I
ahead.
just penciled down what we.
You're fine, you're fine.
Additional parking, but we don't know, I guess we need to establish an account, how many we think we might need.
Yeah, and
I mean, usually in a program, you would give a range of what you would shoot for.
I would almost say we need to try to double the parking. I mean, and there is, I mean, that whole thing, that there is some of those,
There's that
those
blue.
little, those peninsula little things, I mean, some of that's kind of some wasted space
Yeah.
and stuff that we could
And I-
reprogram that parking lot.
I would caution you too, not to overpark it for the 300 days or however many
Yeah.
per year, when it's just gonna sit there empty and the main thing you'll see is an empty parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
An area for sponsored names,
Mhm.
you know, whether it's at the entry or kind of throughout the memorial.
Mhm.
And no idea what that is, obviously not brick pavers because we know that doesn't.
Right.
I know our Legion Post would like to
Okay.
do something.
Okay.
And, I mean, and a lot of those were, I think, you know, when we looked at similar, we brought up the Soledad Memorial in San Diego, that was one of the things, that they put them all along the sides too. They didn't put them on the ground and anything like that, so as part of the walk for them around their memorial, they had a lot of those plaques up there and stuff, so maybe that it isn't there, and maybe it is included, not just where the memorial is, but maybe it's back in some of those wooded areas, you know, maybe the 179 here locally, maybe we all get together and we purchase a little area and we have, you know, come up with our granite head and our emblem and stuff, and then we say this area is dedicated to all the 179 soldiers.
Put a bench there or something.
Yeah, we put a bench, and, you know, maybe the whole park itself then has little nodes, and then you got the big guy here in the middle, obviously, to draw attention,
Yeah.
but part of the walk and the running and everything through there,
Maybe
maybe.
a way to get people back towards the.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get
Bench,
people-
Yeah.
Well, I have a whole list of groups that are known for partnerships
Okay.
for things like this, so.
A place for the vets' names, of course. I kind of went back and forth on how that could be done. Maybe that's something we can talk about later, but sometimes they just carve it into the stone or with concrete. But I think if they had a way of hanging it or mounting it, they can pull it off and add to it
Right.
or repair it. That might be a smart way to.
And we
do
still
that.
have the bricks from Stevenson
Yes,
to relocate.
but most of the veterans' bricks are not readable.
Right.
And I went back and did some research, and I can only find 60 veterans' names that were ever in that
And,
plaza.
and maybe we might use social media on that and put a call out, because
Yeah.
if anybody ever does, and then
Yeah.
if there's I know, I mean, it's similar like a lot of people do at the Vietnam Memorial, you could probably, maybe put a piece of trace paper down
Yeah. Like
and
impressions.
like that, and see if it comes up with enough stuff that you might be able to pull somebody's
But
name
you-
off.
I can give you those 60 names, but I have lists, like this is a list, I have a list that was run in 1991 of 1,282 veterans' names.
Okay.
And another one of the 179th
Mhm.
of all of those names, I didn't count them. But a lot of these came from the VFW and from American Legion,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
so that was what they were working from when they did the bricks. And then
Mhm.
they just advertised in the newspaper and said, if you're a veteran and you can document it, you can have a free brick in that area. But then at some point, and I'm not sure how this happened, because it was a project of the Edmond Historic Preservation Trust
Mhm.
to begin with, and then in 1994, when the city disbanded the trust for a period of time, it became a museums project,
Mhm.
and then it's just kind of
Yeah.
been ours from that time on. But,
So are we planning to relocate those bricks to add to this memorial?
I don't think so, because there's really nothing to relocate. There's no readable names on
Not
it.
against it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even, but maybe we could use them inside the pavilion as a wall, just so we're tying the new memorial to the
Sure.
Yeah.
original
Yeah,
Edmonds
or
Memorial.
I've seen some pictures where they're the backs of the treads on the stairs,
Yeah.
you know, in the amphitheater type part, they could be used along the backs.
Yeah, there's, you know, we could get a count through there and, you know, try to figure those things out. Yeah,
There's
a lot of,
there's lots of family bricks and pioneer bricks in that plaza in
Mhm.
Stevenson Park that are not veterans.
right.
Yeah, that way they just don't
It's just not-
get thrown away or whatever, they get utilized.
Yeah. And if we could
How do
take-
you qualify as an Edmond veteran?
Well, see, that again, there was no.
Those aren't deceased veterans that you just mentioned, are they? They're just veterans.
Well, at
Right,
some point, they
as
had
far
to
as I
show
know,
something, right?
there's probably some who died in war and probably some that didn't, that are
Probably.
part of
I
that
mean,
list.
If they had
There-
provided DD 214.
Yeah.
There was no
that's-
stipulation in the article that said one way or the other.
For like Cleveland County, the one that's out there by OU, down by the softball fields, that's what they required you, if you wanted to be on there, fill out the information, you know, why are you being put on a Cleveland County one? Well, okay, you were a student at OU in ROTC, and I have a DD 214. Oh, okay, here you go. Yes, we'll put you on. And then it was like, hey, do you want to be next to anybody, one of your buddies and stuff? I'm sure they hopefully had something like that, so some guy just wasn't coming in off the street saying, hey, here's a couple $100.
That's still not very exclusive. Anyone
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
end up there.
Yeah, but 28 years ago, stolen valor wasn't a big issue. So, I mean, it's the way it was. If somebody said, I'm a veteran, I want to be on, you took them at their word, 'cause, yeah.
Well, and there were certain years that were published in the paper for certain wars, and I don't understand why, because the World War I date was not the beginning of World War I, it was in the middle. So if you served at the First World War I, you didn't qualify for some reason. I don't understand that, but that's the way it was worded. So it was basically World War I through the 90s, which is when it was done.
And David brings up a good question. If you choose to have names in there, how are you gonna quantify or qualify?
Well, I think we can get through that, and I think obviously, you know, providing, you know, your DD 214, you know, and that, because I mean, that's official.
That just proves you're a veteran.
Yeah.
But this
Or you-
implies to me, people that live in Edmond or lived in Edmond or have families here, or is this just for veterans? I mean, honors all veterans.
Right.
But if you're gonna start putting names up there,
No.
They should have an Edmund connection, I would think.
I would
You
think.
had to have
that-
somebody to make that decision.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that, you know, that depends on, you know, what, kind of, okay, so let's just throw that out. So we have a pavilion, right?
Yeah.
This side, everybody over here is, thank you to the citizens who have donated X amount of dollars or whatever on this side, you know, because some people, hey, they aren't veterans. And my father-in-law would have loved to have went in, and they're like, man, you're blind as a bat. There's no way. So, and then over here we have, we go in and then you have the, maybe the guy donates the money, and on behalf of his father or something. I mean, some of the things that I remember seeing at like the Soledad one, I mean, there were people who weren't veterans, but they were just donating money as concerned citizens that says, I'm donating on behalf of all of the POWs because my uncle was a POW
Yeah.
or something, or because, companies might want to do it because, hey, they care. And I think that that's where, as we work through this, is it's at the pavilion, where are the different levels and stuff, so as the fundraising happens and stuff, and then that'll evolve as we get through this and
Yeah.
stuff, so.
But, the whole park is dedicated to veterans. And I'm not sure I see any reason that to post somewhere the name of each and every veteran that lives in Edmond or has lived in Edmond or hopes to live in Edmond.
Yeah,
Uh,
that list is gonna be
You know,
outrageously long.
Well, it would be.
No, I think,
There would be certain exclusive groups of veterans that you may want to post, but
I think if we
in
limited
terms of
it,
trying to get everybody's name.
right, I
if
mean,
we
if you,
limited it to KIAs,
It becomes,
that might
it
be.
becomes impossible.
And Medal of Honor winners.
yeah, I mean, I think if it was those types of, if we say, okay, if you're from Edmond and you meet this criteria, you're automatically getting in no matter what, unless you come forward and say, hey, I don't want money on it. Then the rest of everybody else is like, okay, I go and throw down $10,000 and want my name over here in this little area or something like that and stuff. But to go through and say, hey, we're just going to start putting everybody sign up, I mean, wow, we'll have a full-time staff guy out there chiseling names into his stuff every couple of years and everything, so. Because, I mean, they're getting ready to do 2 more deployments here, over the next couple of years.
So
we have all these other ones.
iCasualties lists six casualties from Edmond back through Korea.
Okay.
I mean, that's KIAs. So we've got 1 from OIF, we've got 4 from OEF, and 1 from Korea.
Do they have any?
But there's a lot more veterans than the KIAs.
Oh,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's thousands of veterans in Edmond, or
Yeah.
just the kids that go to UCO and stuff are veterans.
Oh, no, I completely agree.
So I don't know how we're gonna deal with that.
But, I mean, if we're gonna draw a line somewhere, I mean.
Yeah, I would say
Can I-
like Medal of Honor, KOA,
check
something like that.
Sure.
We had the same problems with our membership to the American Legion. And so basically what we have decided is we go with what the VA considers a veteran. And if you want, I can bring you those rules that specify what they mean by a veteran. Would that help?
Well, isn't that just a DD 214?
No.
No, there's specific dates as
Specific
well.
dates, and then there's, because right now,
Specific what?
There are
Dates of
specific
service.
dates,
dates.
To
Because
be a
if,
veteran?
yes.
because if you don't deploy during a certain amount of time, you don't pick up that status.
They don't consider like reservists. that
Well, they don't,
do a
reservists don't
6-year.
have a DD 214.
That's what I'm talking
Right.
about. That,
What?
You have an
but
NG.
that, a lot of those people would say, yes, they're.
Well,
I
and
know,
they-
I did DD 214, I was a reservist.
Yeah.
Then you must have served.
You were on
during
service.
time of
Yeah.
war, overseas.
Or you're on some orders.
But
Recently, like,
that's why I say, if you could go by what is the federally recognized VA criteria, that would,
the Oklahoma Army National Guard unit that went over to Ukraine was active duty for 150 days.
Oh, no, 179 days.
Well, no, they did, 179, so they did not pick up
That's not
veteran
long enough.
status.
Yeah.
Really?
And yes, and so there's stuff, unfortunately, like that's probably not the first case that's ever happened.
You're absolutely correct.
And the National Guard has changed it to where if you serve 20 years, I think and you never get combat deployed for over 180 days, they then grant you, after 20 years of good service, then you actually pick up a veteran status.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
brand new.
Yeah, and so there are certain things like that, but I mean, I think that those things, I mean, that's a programming requirement we get to, and maybe it comes out to be, you know what we say, is we say, there's a specific area on this for KIAs
yes.
and Medal of Honor winners that is not part of whatever the design is, these
Yeah.
walls. Maybe these walls are left blank
Blank.
for a reason. And those guys are honored somewhere else within, you know, on the memorial or somewhere else within that. But those things, I mean, those are more aesthetic, you know, program, you know, those are really dialed in. We're looking at, you know, we want this to, you know, we have bathrooms.
Yes.
We want, you know, obviously the main flagpole and then all the flagpoles for the other ones. We want this to be seen at night. Those types of things is what we're getting into right now, and stuff. And so you bring up a great point. We need to get to that point. I feel that's a little bit down the road once we figure out,
So
hey.
you want me to leave that off, the part about the sponsor, the vets' names and that? Just leave all that off for right now?
Well, I think it's obviously, I mean, it's an important issue.
But it's not in this part that we're talking about.
Well,
We're just not ready for it yet.
Not ready for
Not
it
ready
yet.
for it yet. I mean, it'll obviously come up because, I mean,
That's something you could potentially look at handling with technology as well.
Yeah.
Since it's such a
Yeah.
fluid thing, that may be the best way to handle that is through the use of technology.
Well, back to the stuff that you want to talk about. It seems to me like if they rebuild that house pavilion, it kind of needs to blend with the architecture of the, and you can't have the Parks Department doing one and us doing another. It seems like, I'm sure they would talk to each other, I would hope.
Right, and I would imagine when an RFP that would come out for this would go out to, I mean, I would imagine it would probably go out to maybe a landscape design company, have them, and then, but there would be there'd be this criteria, and in that would be a design for, you know, a pavilion type of a place, and, you know, that has bathrooms and stuff like that. Now, it could go out to an architect and respond to it, because they usually, when they send these RFPs out, they send them out and say, hey, basically they start listing all these design, like, hey, if you're an architecture firm or if you're a landscape architecture firm, this is who we're trying to send it out to. And majority of the time what will happen is you'll consult, the architecture firm and the landscape architecture firm will join forces and basically put in the response package together and say, hey, we've done all this type of stuff before, we're joining teams, and then once whoever's selected, they work together to get the concept blended in between, you know, what toilet you want, and then make sure the granite color is the right stuff. I mean, it all works out that way at the end, so it's all coordinated. Because, the Parks Department they're the ones that just submitting the RFP out for everybody to respond to. They wouldn't do any of the design or the construction for it.
Can I make a comment? I just looked up
Certainly.
veteran. It says under Title 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations, defines a veteran as a person who served in the active military, naval, or air service, and who was discharged or released under conditions other than dishonorable. This definition explains that any individual that completed a service for any branch of armed forces classifies as a veteran as long as they were not dishonorably discharged. However, with regard to applicable benefits, other considerations are taken into account. So a veteran is that definition, but if you're talking about getting benefits under the VA system,
It's totally
then there are other requirements.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that as we would get into stuff like, what you're saying, sir, is there would have to be a criteria sheet obviously put out that would be approved by a committee and sent to council, and council would have to say, okay, yeah, this is how this stuff all works for everything. So there is no, well, I get told I'm a veteran, well, or I'm this and all this other stuff. Well, okay, but you don't qualify according to what's here, and these are the rules that we go by, that we've been voted on by the citizens and stuff, so.
You're gonna have people that, I went to basic training, but
I washed out.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Blew
go to
my knee
AIT
out
or,
or something like that stuff.
it will be a long process.
No. So, but anyway, so I've said back to the list.
We talked about an educational aspect.
Mhm.
That's something we could vote on.
Yeah.
And then, also, I think that Casey had mentioned that, they'd like to see the memorial have some sort of special wow factor.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, and whatever it is, I don't know, but maybe something that we
Well, in the matter of time for everybody, it's now 7:59, so I think that's a good list to get us started.
Okay.
And we'll keep adding to this over our time and stuff, emailing to Casey, assembling everything. And we'll still work on this for our next meeting. So let's throw out some meeting dates.
Well, I think you need to put that.
Seventh is our next.
Your
The
next
seventh,
one.
the seventh is set. I
Yes,
think
sir.
for your next agenda, that needs to, after minutes, before you get into your
Right.
concept discussion, you need to go ahead and line that out.
I'd say we further, going over our concepts, spend half the time going over concepts and kind of the programming of some of the stuff that we want to see inside of the park and everything. Yeah, and if we can define the wow factor, I mean, if everybody's got a thought process on that, then bring your ideas, please.
A couple of things. The reason that the meeting date piece is important is that when we picked this arbitrary date for this to end, not for any reason other than we just want to make sure you knew this was going to end. But if you extend beyond that, which you're going to, council's going to have to go back and amend the resolution. So that's why at the next meeting, you'll need to make sure you do that. Get that lined out first so that we can get it on a council agenda so that you guys can legally keep meeting as a task force.
Just every 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, and so we meet on the 7th,
Yeah.
and then, I mean, I'm not gonna be here on the 21st, is anybody else, because next day's Thanksgiving.
That's why you guys didn't
Yeah.
set that.
Yeah.
So that's why I put that on the agenda for discussion next agenda.
Well, something else we could move up, just have a week, whatever, the 14th, and then,
Oh, no, they're playing next.
Yeah, so we'll keep, everybody kind of have some thoughts about that, where you'd want to see the next meeting, how we want to do it. And remember, we have to give 48-hour notice by rules.
Yeah, we post the agenda. We've gotten in the habit of doing it on the Friday before the Wednesday
Okay,
meeting.
for the Wednesday meeting, so,
Yeah.
okay, so just,
That gives us plenty of time.
yeah. So we'll move forward on that. Is there any other new business, anything at all anybody would like to bring up?
Question,
Go ahead, sir.
you sent out our last email talking about the barbecue roast, I think, on November.
Oh, yeah, and it said RSVP, but then it says don't RSVP, even though it has a name and a phone number. Do they need RSVP? No.
Okay.
Just show up. Just show
Very
up.
safe, yeah. It's confusing, so. If there is nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
oh,